Why sit here until we die? See, the only thing that will move you out of your comfort zone, out of complacency, into the things that only God can do for you. This is what the Lord told me to tell you. He said the only thing that will get you there is hunger. The only thing that lifted them out of their self-pity was hunger. The only thing that lifted them out of their excuses, we might as well, nobody else is doing anything, we're all dying, so we'll die here together. The only thing that pushed them was hunger. The only thing that caused them to begin to move toward their destiny and a brighter day was hunger. And hunger will drive you and push you. And fasting is hungering for God. The Bible said that there were 4 of them, and I think probably one of them was sitting there and he had tacos on his mind. One was sitting there and he had fried chicken on his mind. One was sitting there and he had Krispy Kreme donuts on his mind. But one stood up and said, I can't sit here. I can't have another year like I had. We're dying. We're dying. Why sit here until we die? He says, you know, if we enter the city, He'll keep us alive and we'll live, but if they kill us, we'll die. Now listen to this thinking. Listen to this. Now therefore come, let us surrender to the army of the Syrians. If they keep us alive, this guy was a college graduate, I'm sure, we shall live. If they kill us, we shall die. That's brilliant, isn't it? But why sit here until we die? That hunger began to drive them. He began to hunger, and he said, there's got to be more. And it was the hunger that began to move him toward the direction of the plan and the purpose and the miracle that God had for him. And I believe with all of my heart that there are things that God will do for people when they hunger for Him. When they fast and they pray, fasting is hungering for God. And when you begin to hunger for God, suddenly you move up out of the challenges and the comfort zone, and you move up out of self-pity and up out of depression and hopelessness, and the hunger begin to move, and they begin to take steps, 4 of them, toward the enemy's camp. Things even got more desperate inside the walls of that city, so much so that the Bible gives one more astonishing description. They became so hungry that the Bible said they began to boil and eat their own babies, their own flesh and blood, and make bargains and say, we child today, we eat my child tomorrow. See, we don't understand hunger. We don't understand hunger. I'm talking about people who were so desperate that with hunger. And what I want you to understand about that is that when people do not feel the spiritual hunger for God with spiritual things, in homes, in families, in marriages, when they only feed on donkeys' heads and dove's dung and carnality and think that's enough to hold your marriage and bless your family. When you only feed on carnal things and you don't feed spiritual hunger for God with a hunger for God, then guess what? You start turning on one another. You start devouring one another. You start attacking one another. And the enemy comes and divides families and divides homes. And it's really a sign of a growl for somebody who needs to begin to consume. Spiritual appetite and get a hunger for God that changes our attitude, that opens our eyes to the bigger things, not just devouring one another. I'm praying that somebody will hear me preaching that will say, I cannot have another year like I had. I cannot sit in this addiction for another 12 months. I refuse to live like this again. Something's got to give. I'm desperate and I've got a hunger for God that only God can fix and God can fulfill and God can do in my family and in my home. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel so that you can get notifications on new posts and live streams. Be sure to share this video with a friend. You never know how you can send the Word of God right when somebody needs to hear it. And you can use your social influence for good, for the glory of God. Thanks again. Share it with a friend. And I really appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.